All right, let's go. Oh, another Kain. Another one.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah, I think we had one recently. Yeah.
Another one.
Okay, so how does this file work? I guess before we start with anything, you've got character, equipment. If I click that, oh, it teleports to this stuff. This is some... Okay. You're setting a new standard for everyone's...
Yeah. Feel free to use the template. No.
Setting a new standard for everyone's input here.
Yeah, I don't know if you go by Kain or Kain.
Yeah, oh yeah, I did that on the last one. Like, oh, do you have any preferences on what we should refer to?
I don't know.
Okay. Wait, is the questions empty, or am I getting pushed over to the...
Am I doing that wrong? Mm.
Oh, here, that's on the other page. Goals, questions. Oh, there we go. Okay. What do you feel more comfortable with? That we just go through the questions and then basically elaborate on the topics that the questions go about and go by that?
I think that works. I think it's more of a general thing because I guess this is like the farthest I've ever gone on a character, so kind of don't know what to expect next. Does that make sense? And I guess just more steps going forward. I guess learning on some of the mechanics of the game in more detail. But yeah.
Sure. I guess I'll read the history routine thing first a little bit, right? It's good to get some background. So you started 3 months ago. Enkadena, Golix revamp. Okay, so that's, what is that, like a year and a half ago?
Yeah, it's a while ago, it seems.
Yeah, I don't keep a log of like Golix changed was this date, you know, like so in my brain. 3k Legion. Oh yeah, so you've gained some Legion in the last months. How was that?
I didn't mind it. I really didn't know about the system until I got back into it with some of my friends, 3 months ago when I came back, and so I started working on it, and it's actually very valuable.
And the importance of it probably as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, you often overlook it because I've been High Legion for so long, but then you probably noticed. I don't know if you were there when I was playing Lara with Amy as well. And then she...
no, I couldn't stop by that stream.
Oh, yeah. Well, she just started, and she usually plays on non-reboot, right? So on reboot, she doesn't have much in the ways of Legion at all. But I was doing, like, I think around level 40 or something, I was doing about 70 times her damage because of just Legion and Lynx, and otherwise no different, right? Same gear, same Star Force, but just, like, the hits itself were about 70 times the damage. So it was, like... You know, it doesn't stay that multiplier, of course, right? Because a lot of it is flat input. So early on, when you have almost no stat, almost no crit, like it's an insane, it's an insane boost. But yeah, that's when you really start noticing, like, oh, you know, like on the new Terra Burn, I think I had a 12k crit on a basic attack on Maple Island at level 6. You know, these are like, yeah. I mean, I'm back in the day, like, it was like, oh, wow, I hit a double-digit number, you know? And it's...
Yeah.
It's like 100x.
Playing when cap was just that 99999.
Yeah.
And all that stuff.
It was like 10k for a while, yeah.
Yeah.
If you could hit that on like a power strike as a warrior, it was like, oh my god. Like you had to use an Onyx apple to
Yep.
a Moria apple to hit that 10k power. And that was like one line on one target as well. Yeah. It was a slightly different time. And now new class comes out, is like hits 4 monsters 6 times for this much percent, and it's like, okay, you just
Yeah.
hopping around. Full-time job, only play after work week. Yeah, so maybe like an hour and a half or something max per day. Mainly dailies, I'm guessing, and then weekends you get to totem.
Mostly dailies and usually weekends if I feel grindy, because sometimes I'm not able to play on weekends too. I go out, so just time to my day that's not spent towards, Maple. Right,
and it's also with the same IRL friends that also you're playing with, or?
Yeah. So I play with 2 other friends, and I joined Reboot again just to kind of have that solo duo trio experience. I don't really join any parties or anything. It's just really just us trying to progress together, see how far we can get.
Okay. And what kind of classes do they play?
One's a Hayato, another's a Hoyoung, and the Hayato also has a Dell as well, and my second, I guess, mule is just a Nightwalker.
Yep.
Yeah.
Solo with the bosses. And so up to what do you solo now?
I can, if you scroll up a little bit further on that, those are the bosses that I could solo.
Okay.
Chaos Vellum, I just straight up just suck at dodging, and same with Pap. Just I guess some time spent doing some of the training or practice modes, but not very good at dodging, I guess.
I guess. Well, I mean, we can go to that a little bit, I guess, since we're going through this.
Sure.
Like for Vellum, when you say dodging, is it like everything? Is it mainly the rocks? Like what is?
It's the rocks. They stun me, and then the tails come up, and I just get one shot, and it's not fun. I mean, I've got it to about 60%, and then just trying to focus on dodging a bit more rather than putting in the damage.
Right.
And that seemed to work. I think I just got to put more focus into it, and maybe I could do it.
When you say 60% left or 60%
left, 60% left. That's within like 3 minutes, I think, of the timer. So just 3 minutes lapsed, and I just did it. Yeah. There's
definitely a degree of learning when you can take risks, right? I usually think it's a good test to just. Have you ever gone in and tried to not damage but just run out the clock?
No, I haven't tried to run out the clock yet. I think that's something that I think would benefit, because it's just
so two things.
Dodging, you learn the mechanics, right?
Yeah, so I would try to do two things. First, try to run out the clock, and also not by just sitting in a corner, right? By actually staying as close to him as possible at all times. That gives you a feeling for, like if you put a lot of distance between where he goes underground and where you are, he's likely to come up immediately more. You also see like he alternates between shooting the fireballs or just coming straight up and doing nothing. That's always an alternation, like he'll never shoot fireballs twice in a row. You'll get a good feel for the rhythm of the fireballs and also for where you can stand. And the main thing is your positioning is like 99% of that boss fight, because during him shooting the fireballs, it feels like you can't stand anywhere, but actually you can stand almost everywhere, just except where the fireballs are landing, and you already know exactly where they're landing. And that's gonna become like, instead of being a very conscious process of like seeing the fireballs, it's gonna become a very subconscious process, because you're just already gonna know where they are. You're gonna know what the rhythm is, and you're gonna be like jump attacking. You're gonna know how many attacks you can do, and you're gonna slowly maybe even move into the fireballs. Because your initial instinct is like, okay, he's shooting fireballs from the front, I'm gonna go way behind. Well, what happens now?
That's what I've been doing.
Yeah, that's everyone's initial response. But then what happens is the tails come, and then you jump out of that, and then a second tail comes, and then you jump out of that, and now you're like right on top of him. And then if he goes down while you're on top of him, you get pushed back. If you get pushed back to the wrong side, you get pushed back into a tail and die to that.
Yep.
If you get stunned by a rock and the last tail comes up, you die to that. Or if you get stunned and the last tail you manage to dodge, but he comes right back up because you're right on top of him, then you can die to that. There's a lot of stuff that can go wrong, and sometimes just hopping around and learning the rhythm of the attacks, and it's not like 1 Mississippi, 2, right? You're not counting out loud, but you get a feel for when this skill starts and this skill starts. I know that this one is going to hit first, and that one is going to hit later. And the other thing is also, like with the tails, you want to try to stutter step them a little bit so that they overlap as much as possible in the AoE, so that there's the least amount of ground covered by tails, so there's the most possible ground left over where you can stand. And if you do go behind him because the fireballs are in front, for example, you can overlap like the first 2 tails almost perfectly, and then the third and maybe the fourth one are a little bit more to the right as you're moving to the right and just jump attacking to the right. But then by the time you get to the front of him, you're just attacking him like 2, 3, 4 times for free, because he's already done with his fireballs. And the part in front of him that was the most dangerous is now the most safe, because he doesn't have any more tails to spawn. And once you get more used to that rhythm, but try to get the rhythm of the attacks, like in the beginning, I would say without doing any damage, and try to focus mostly on seeing where he's going, what he's doing, how is he responding to your attacks. And then, because the main thing is going to be once he gets past 50%, he does like the suck attack on the side, right?
Okay.
And then,
I haven't got there.
So there's a few ways to go about that, but basically he will go underground, and then the indicator will just disappear completely once he's like under 50% HP, and it'll say like Vellum is gathering air to like suck in. And if you're in the middle of the map, you will get sucked to one side, and that's how you know that's the side he's on. You can also kind of go to one side, see if he shows up or not, and if he doesn't, run to the other side. And if he has debuffs, sometimes you can see the debuffs appear before he actually does. So you can see it as an indicator, like I'm on the right side. And you do have some debuffs, so that could be a good indicator for you. But the problem kind of with that is that there can be a desync or like a bad pattern with rocks falling off screen that you're going to be jumping into, and then you get stunned on the way there. So you might have to, as soon as you see the red, and you know the rhythm, you can always use your iframe because it's on a pretty short cooldown, right? To make sure you don't get stunned on the way there, dash through. But it makes the second 50% of the boss fight actually way faster than the first, because you can hit him a lot while he's in the corner, like breathing air and sucking. Plus, whenever he comes up in a non-fully fully erect, like in a flaccid manner, he sometimes does the snot attack, the poison attack. Which that one is also very annoying in the beginning, and that one is also a good one to practice on. Where can you actually stand? Which hits can you take? Which hits can you not take? Like for example, the landing green stuff, you can take a hit of that, but you can't stand like in the spot right in between two, because then you get hit by both at the same time and you still die to that. So your positioning there again is very important. And you could definitely check out some of the Project CRA videos I've done, because I try to like limit test myself a little bit with that as well, because I have to cut corners. I can't be on those characters. I can't just be like, I'll just sit back and then come back later for damage. I have to be like on him all the time, otherwise I don't have the time. So for you that might not be as necessary if you're way stronger, but it's a good way of seeing like this is actually how much risk you can take that's fairly safe. And then you have that dash, as a get out jail free card sometimes, and you have your iframe with a pretty short cooldown on the backlog. But it's mainly going to be part of like holding off your burst. Don't do anything crazy in the beginning, because he's not up a lot. And then if he does the fireballs, then you can you put down your grip of agony. Grip of agony, That's going to be an enormous amount of damage, of course, that you can pretty much secure at that point. But otherwise, you're just holding on to that to make sure that you have an ideal situation to go for.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've been pretty impatient with the burst. And that's costing me a lot. So I think just learn when my opportunities are, I think, is the biggest thing, and that would help if I know the attacks, obviously, right? So
yeah, and that's like a general advice for all the bosses, is try to always keep a visual on the boss, because you'll just see things coming a little bit faster, and you'll see the signs. And then it comes down to getting like dumpstered by the attacks a bunch of times to figure out what visual makes it so that I can move in a certain way and get out of the way at a certain speed. And I guess the last thing about the rocks is that they're very annoying.
They are.
But I usually give the bicycle analogy. You're familiar with the spokes in the wheel of a bicycle?
Yeah.
And when you have like I don't know what you guys call it, but you have like the lock in the back of your bike, right? That goes through your wheel. Sometimes you lock it and it'll hit a spoke, right?
Yeah.
But if you like randomly spin your wheel and try again, you can hit a spoke again. But if you move your wheel 1 inch, it'll always be off the spoke. And you want to look at the rocks in the same way. Because if you see one rock, that doesn't mean that you can jump all the way to the left, because you might hit another rock there because you didn't see it fall. But if you see one rock, you always know a certain distance before the rock and after the rock is 100% safe, because there's minimal distance between the rocks.
Yeah.
So you can always move that distance off the screen and you'll be safe. Sometimes thinking that you're safer by going further away might actually make you less safe. So in the same way, I don't know.
Way to think about it,
Yeah, it's helpful for some people. I don't know. As long as someone isn't like, huh? Then I'll keep using that one every now and then.
Huh?
But that's made because that's something that I figured out when I was like locking my bike, and then a few times I was like, okay, I'll just spin my wheel, and bam again. It's like, wait, this is dumb. If I just move it a little bit, it'll always be good, and it's less effort, and it's 100% foolproof. But yeah, the positioning for the rocks, it is to the extent that you get hard punished for getting hit by those, definitely. And and you'll learn more situations where like, okay, now there's just too much going on. I'm omega fucked. Now the iframe will come in and because in the beginning you might use it too much, because a lot of situations feel like you're omega fucked, but as you get more experience, you're like, oh, I can do this. I can dash to this side. And then the required uses for the iframe become less and less and less, to the extent where you're like, oh, now I know how to use it at the same time. And basically for CPAP, I would give almost the exact same advice, right? Because it just comes down to figuring out the timings, figuring out the positioning. You know, when do you actually need to use the iframe when you're standing on the right side blocking the laser versus because there's a clock underneath you, or when can you move a little bit to the right and then a little bit more to the left, or a lot of bit because the hitbox is a bit wider than what it looks like on those purple things. Definitely gotten hit by those a few hundred times.
It's really deceiving.
Yeah. Or when do you need to just use the iframe to stay in position, right? And keep blocking the laser, because jumping out of the way is never an option, because if the lasers touch you, you're just gone. I think you can hug into the corner and hold a full iframe. I think you can survive the lasers, maybe. Because the lasers touching is not one full map. It's like 1, 2, 3, and then an explosion, like a fourth one at the end. So you have to immune all 4 of them. Which, that's a huge thing. I also have a video on CPAP where I break down one of my runs, pretty long run on my Adele. I don't know if you've seen that one.
No, I haven't. I should probably check that one out. But
a lot of people have found it same. A lot of people have found it very helpful. I basically have a pretty long run on an Adele. I used to have a run with a hero, but I updated it because they changed the platforms. Yeah, they made like one platform a little bit lower. I think it was to block lasers in a different way, or to get away from one of those grabby claw things, which those are hella fun.
Yeah. God.
Yeah, between those purple clocks and those claws, there's a lot of cool shit going on there for sure. But I think it is one of those bosses where you can definitely find a lot of validation out of getting better and getting better at it. And then in the beginning, you're mostly dodging and looking about the positioning and getting out of the way of things. But as you continue, it's going to be mostly of, the amount of oh shit situations is going to go down significantly.
Yeah, for sure. We tried CPAP, I think, at reset, and I think we got to the first phase like maybe with 20% HP left. But at that point, we were all like one life left, and we're like, oh, okay, cool.
Was it the part where he like closes up and you've got the dial in the middle with the timers? Did you get to that point?
I died out before that part, but one person was left, and he got to that part, but he didn't know what to do at that one, so I was trying to explain to him while he was doing it.
Yeah, and then it probably, either he died during or it full res probably, and then he was like, okay, never mind.
It full res, 100%, and it was like, okay.
I love those where it has like 500% on the board, and you're like, okay, let's go. Yep. I've got to clear everything. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. When you have the time, that you can just leave the last one up, pop some buffs, and just slowly wait for him to come back.
Feels good when that happens. Yeah,
that's the good one, because you can get all your cooldowns back, right? So.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess for Velum and for any boss after that, right? It kind of would do the same approach, because. It's
that same philosophy with it, I guess.
Yeah, it's just too much at once otherwise.
It is.
And then if you fail, you don't know what you're failing at, right? It's harder to fix the problem if you can't identify it. So if it's purely like, okay, for this move set, I'm just moving in too fast, or I'm jumping too much or too little, then you can attack the root of the problem way faster, and that'll help you get over that obstacle faster.
Yeah, I recently just cleared Hard Magnus, like with solo, and man, before I had enough damage, that one was rough too. It's a lot of I didn't know too much about the mechanics, but eventually, because you're given so many lives, I did it within 3. So honestly, just waiting for burst for the most part.
Yep.
Trying to survive.
The more burst heavy you are, the better of a strategy that is. Yeah.
Yeah, and whatever that green mist is just crazy. I don't know what to do in those. Is it just nothing you can do in that, with those like green smoke that pops up and just stuns you for a million years, or what?
Yeah, you just always want to find him in the middle. Just always keep him in the middle. So the main strategy is like try to stay within the blue curtain, but always on the side of him that's closer to the middle, so that whenever he dashes, he keeps like. So he doesn't go too far away from the middle, basically, because you never want to fight him on the sides. Yeah, that green mist is just super killer. You want to dodge that completely. And if you die in the middle, you just hang dead there. If you die in a corner, then you want to res and go back to the middle, so that he doesn't. To the middle. Yeah.
So middle's the best positioning.
Yeah, 100%.
It limits like all the other random stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing it limits is the mist, but that's like enough of a reason to not want to go to the corner. Yeah. And as a result, like the link skills, like the Spirit of Freedom, right, from the resistance characters is very useful so that you can hop back to the middle without taking damage instantly, getting stunned instantly, getting slapped around instantly.
Yeah, that's definitely another topic I had in my questions is link skills, because I'm pretty sure I just went off the link skills that I had when I was playing Cadena, and I really don't know how to, like, what's more optimal for me, I guess, because I don't know all the link skills. So
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's open that. Yeah, I guess as a side question there, how familiar are you with all the commands that I have?
I know you have a ton. I've peeked at some every now and then just to get some answers when I needed some, but I haven't looked at all of them.
Okay. I guess we'll go through the history routine, finish that up.
Sure.
So level 100 characters. Yeah, so that's solely for bringing up your Legion to 140, right?
Characters. I almost have a few characters to 140, and then that should help out my board a little bit. But I tried to prioritize characters that give like the most benefits to my character. So like the crit damage and stuff. That's one thing I have to work on next. I don't have a shade yet, so that's next on the list. But depending on if I need to get other links as well, I'll see what's more valuable.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Did you do a Terror Burn already?
Yeah, I did it for a boss mule. I did it for a Nightwalker.
Oh, okay, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I always liked Night Lords, and I haven't tried a Nightwalker, so it seems pretty fun. Getting by with some weeklies with the group.
Yep. Oh, they have like slightly weaker characters, secondary characters, and that you're doing with those as well, or?
Yeah, so I'm mostly soloing on my main, and then joining up with my party on my Nightwalker. That way, I could clear and also get some mesos from the crystals. So
and hang out a little bit as well. A little bit three bird, one stone action. And do you have an idea for the next Terror Burn?
I was thinking Shade just for the crit damage in Legion. But depending on our conversation that we have with links, maybe I'll prioritize something else, or maybe you see something that I should prioritize a bit further instead. I'm just not really sure on what that next character is.
Sure. Yeah, because with Terror Burn, the additional rewards past 200 and especially like up to 220, you're planning to get the Nightwalker all the way to 220 for those extra rewards?
It's already 220, and I moved the Abso to my main because I was running a crappy Flame Sweetwater, and it helped out quite a bit. Yeah.
Okay, for sure. So whether the other one, you're like, okay, I'm gonna be okay with keeping it to 200 because of time constraints, and because the 220 rewards and those are already not there anymore for the character, and you're okay with keeping it 200, then something like Shade could be great. I mean, we'll look at the details later. But if you're thinking of like another bossing mule or maybe a level 3 link, then this could be a pretty good opportunity to do that as well, of course, because you get that title. That helps you with arcane power and everything past 200, and you get those extra nodes. So it does help for a level 3 link, which at your current state, like if your Legion is 3k, getting a 210 is going to be relatively difficult. So being able to get that kind of for free. But if everything else, the 200 level 200 is like outweighs that value, we'll see that, I guess.
Okay.
Level up another character for 60 Legion, then 100 if I get bored. That's like your general. That's something you try to do daily, or like a few times a week.
Kind of. If I recently just got to 3k. I think the next push is to 3.5 or 4. And I'm not sure if I should, because I have a few characters close to 140. I think once I get those characters to 140, I think I'll start to do more 60s, and then rinse and repeat.
Yeah, trying to kind of find like a balance between not juggling like 18 characters at once.
Yeah, there's a couple classes that are just straight boring, so I don't touch those ones really.
This will be mega burns when it comes around.
For sure.
Kind of made me feel like it. So is totems like a thing that you think about, like 2-hour sessions? Is it something that you just, you know, you maybe use like a few per month, but it's not something you really have time for? Or
There's some grind sessions I've had within the past couple of weeks where, you know, I just straight grind for 2 hours and, you know, all the EXP buffs, all that stuff. And I have like one meso gear with like 20%, but I get okay mesos during that session. But it's not something that I usually just do dailies on my main. I feel like I'm at the point where I'm kind of just scraping by with dailies, getting mesos that way, working on some Legion, but I don't know what my next step should be because this is the farthest I've gone. And you know what I should prioritize. You know, I have a lot of gear that's still like rare or epic kind of thing, so I don't know if I should do that instead, kind of thing.
So, but how many totems would you say you do per month?
I think there's how many available per month usually?
It's 15 in the shop and then 2 in the daily login.
Like I'm gonna say 2 or 3.
And is it something you want to do more of, or that you like? So is the restriction there based on how many dailies you're doing, or is the restriction there based on how much time you have to play Maple, or how much access you have to totems? Like, what is the restrictive part there?
I think it's really just me. I can get into grind mode if I want to.
That was the fourth option, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess some constraints might be the Maple rewards. I think I have like 4 or 5k right now. And so I think that can buy 2. I'm doing some of those monster collection expeditions. You know, I've recently been doing them because I recently just discovered them. And I don't know if there's any other sources other than bosses that can help.
Yeah.
With the reward points, because I think that's the key factor for getting those totems to try and grind as well, right?
Yeah, I linked you a video that I made on totems and on reward points and how you can maximize that. There's actually a lot that you can make somewhat passively with like maybe like 10 minutes. Well, I think it's like half an hour the first day, and then it's just like running it in the background and clicking a little bit on like Maple M. You can link your accounts and you can make up to 15k a month just by daily. Just by doing like a few dailies, you can get 500 a day from that.
Wow!
So that's like 7 totems, 8 totems. No, 7. Yeah, it's like 7 totems. So
quick math.
Yeah, so that can get you started, and then a little bit of monster collection maybe as well over the longer term.
I have 3 slots for that, so that's what I've been doing. I'm not really focusing on it. It just kind of happens. I'm like, oh, I have 3 slots. Cool.
Yeah. If you see the pop-up, you go click it, and then and then sometimes you forget about it. As you get like bigger collection things, it's like every 24 hours. Then it'll give more value because the 3-hour ones are kind of the 6-hour ones are technically best value, but you have to then click every 6 hours, which, you know, sleep is
I have 1 6-hour, I think, and the rest is just the 3-hour ones. Yeah. But I haven't had any 24 ones yet.
Yeah, so it also has a guide to like building up your monster collection and which sets are easy to get and where you can go for those if you want to build that out. So it's got like all the separate aspects of building reward points. So that could help you out. Yeah, because, well, the reason I ask is because, like, if you just don't like doing 2-hour sessions, then it doesn't make much sense to go into that and help you get more totems. Or if you already have enough totems, but you're just not buying them because you don't want to, then, you know, we can skip that whole thing. But how you allocate your time and what kind of stuff you enjoy doing is going to greatly shape what goals are realistic for short, mid, and long term, right?
Yeah, I think because whenever I do totem, I do get, you know, mesos back and also find some node stones too, which I think are super valuable right now because I had no idea what to do with V Matrix. Like that whole thing was a blur to me, and I'm just recently discovering, you know, the perfect trios and stuff and optimizing, you know, the skills for that. And honestly, my V Matrix is really garbage, and
means we have a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've opened up a bunch of node stones and just, you know, disassembled or done something stupid with it and it didn't get the full value of it, so I kind of missed out in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
So getting these node stones are super valuable to me, and I get excited every time I try to open one, but it just nope, not. I have one perfect trio. I think that's it.
Yeah, I guess when you were used to be, when you were playing before, I think the meta probably was bye station at that point, right? For a lot of people to get a Kana in there.
Yeah, I
was always very much trying to push people. Like I know that it's like it feels very rewarding to see like a big number of meso, but you guys are, and I don't necessarily blame you, but you guys are totally missing the value of things like node stones and symbols and droplets. Like pushing your character further and going to the higher level area, even if you're cutting into your mesos a bit, getting all of those other things is so much more valuable than just getting more meso, and you guys should really be working on leveling your character up and going to the higher level. Like, it's fine to be in bye station for a bit, fund up, get enough cash, and then go and then fund yourself on the way up, and then be able to kill in Arcana. It'll be so much more value for your account. And I don't necessarily blame characters, right? Because sometimes I play with the idea, like, what if you were able to like NPC a node for like 30 mil or something, or able to NPC a droplet for 100 mil? Maybe then people would be able to incorporate it into their income, right, more directly, and then see more clearly like how valuable it actually is for your account. But how do you translate that value, right? And how do you let Korea implement that when they don't even realize that reboot is a thing, or that GMS even exists? So how do you that's never going to happen, but a concept like that could help people see that value much more clearly. It's easy to get like one directional like that. A lot of people will look at the game like that. It's just, I just want to make more meso. It's like, yeah, but is meso the only thing that has value, right? It's like when you're bossing, a lot of people will reduce bossing to just the crystal value. But what you're getting like soul shards, which is a pretty intangible like value. Like, how do you value getting a soul shard where there's like RNG on the shard, RNG on the roll, and then RNG on the stat? But if you get a magnificent with 3% attack, like, that's insane. But how do you translate that to how much value does that add every single time you do a weekly boss with drop rate gear, right? That's so difficult to say. Or like all of the flames and the cubes you get, and then when you don't need them anymore on your main character, but you get to put them on another character, make the other character faster and stronger, be able to make more crystals. You get backups for CRA gear. That means you don't have to safeguard at all, right? When you're star forcing, because you can just always have a bunch of backups. That gives you a lot of value that you don't have to star force. But how do you translate that into, this is how much extra money you're making from a run? So, but it's way more value than just a crystal, and when you're mobbing, it's way more value, hopefully, than just the amount of meso you make. But you kind of have to work harder to capitalize on those gains, I guess. It's not as straightforward.
For sure. And I guess I put grinding on main if I feel like it. It's just because I really have no direction. And so, hopefully after this session, I'll have some sort of a direction on what to go, whether it be grinding for a higher level or, more specific tailored things. So
it can also be the perception of the value from the session that can stop you a little bit. It's like, okay, I don't have that many totems, so I'm going to have to really make this one count, right? That extra pressure can also not help. Or I only have one meso gear, so I mean, I am making some money, but not all that much, so that's not really that appealing. I don't have any drop rate gear, so maybe I get like 3 nodes, but which is nice, but it's not like insane. Plus there's events going on, maybe I can get more there, and kind of it's a bunch of things. It's maybe like not having the full insight of like what is the value of my time here versus there, but also what is the potential value of my time here versus there, and is investing in one of those two going to be better and give you better return on investment later, depending on how much time you spend there, right? That's a hard math sum to do in your head, especially if you've only come back after a while and the game has changed a lot. And so hopefully
come back to.
Exactly. So hopefully I can identify those things a bit for you, so it makes more sense, and then you can make your own decision based on the options, like what makes sense and what is going to be fun for you.
I guess generally, if you have like some drop gear, how many nodes would say drop on an hourly basis? Because I think I did a session for about an hour and a half, and that's with no drop gear on, and I got about 7 node stones. I don't know if anyone has like numbers on this, but I was just curious if that's a consideration as well.
Well, there's two factors, right? One is
Yeah.
definitely the drop rate, but the other one is that's arguably more or the same importance, or maybe even more important, is like how many monsters you kill, and that can definitely that relies heavily on which map you're in, whether you have a totem on, what class you are, etc., right?
I think I was in Rev 3 when I did that, and I was one-shotting.
You have a one-shotting Rev 3, and you do like a full totem, and you like full drop rate gear, you probably get like 20, I would say.
Oh wow, okay, cool.
But there's like upper end people, like higher level mob areas like Unlimina 1.5 or something, who do like the close to 25k mobs an hour killed. They'll probably get like 40 or something.
Oh, okay.
On like the upper on the upper areas. Yeah.
Okay.
Because they can also have like the familiars like with 100% drop rate, and then full gear, maybe go up to 200% drop rate gear, maybe have inner ability as well and just kill an insane amount. They can go 40. Yeah, someone in chat is even saying like 45 to 50 might even be doable if you're like in full drop.
Oh wow, okay.
And mainly and this is with a lot of things, and this is why when you have no Legion and no links, you're super weak, and when you have no drop rate, you get almost nothing, is because they have to make sure that it keeps scaling when you increase, so that you feel like it's valuable and that you want to keep scaling, but also make sure that on the upper end, when you have everything, that it's not so ridiculously broken that by like 1 hour of farming, you can now fund 3 full characters, right? So
yeah,
because they need to make that scale feel rewarding, and the end point has to still be not insanely crazy. The beginning point is just bad, and this is something that my mom struggled with a lot. Is like, it feels really unfair when you don't have like all of that stuff, that you're getting so much less than someone who does have everything. And I kind of get that. And it can go both ways, right? It could be so discouraging that you don't want to do it, or it can be like, I want to get that too because I value those things and I see that it's possible, so I want it as well. And it can be motivating.
Yeah. And it's just another goal for me, to be honest, because I'm already kind of isolated in the way I play. I don't party or anything like that, just with friends. So it's just another goal to motivate me.
Yeah, but I mean, correctly identify, like, so together with like the symbols and the symbol dailies, I'm assuming you do those as much as possible, right?
Yes, yeah.
Together with that, the node zones are insanely important. And I mean, don't know to which extent you've considered that, but the main reason is because final damage, right? Arcane power difference leads to final damage increase, and then the boost nodes lead to final damage increase as well. And anytime you can get final damage increase, that's what you want to jump on, because that's like perfectly scaling, non losing of like incremental returns that don't go down, right? It's always final damage multiplier. So that's anytime you can get that, that's like high priority. And in the same way, because some people might say, but what about IED? And that is also final damage, because if you lack IED, then you get a final damage penalty. So you want to minimize the penalty for final damage by doing as much final damage. So it kind of falls under the same reason why that's so important. Same thing with critical damage. Critical damage is essentially final damage on critical hits, but it's additive and not multiplicative. But for most classes, it doesn't see those diminishing returns because you cannot really go too high. It's only for archers, which you happen to be. Like on the upper end, you might see some diminishing returns, but other than that, critical damage is also very important for the same reasons.
Okay.
So your goals that you had for now is basically stabilizing, I guess. Mesos Plux,
I really I really didn't know what to put other than just tangible things like levels and Legion. I really, like I said, it's more so just general what I should try to do next. It's trying to pinpoint it so I'm not just doing dailies, and probably, putting some of my time to something more valuable that would help me, whether it be Legion or focusing on, my nodes, because they're pretty trash. But yeah.
Yeah, but trash is relative, right? Because most people's nodes at like yeah, maybe not at 230 as much anymore, but like especially if you're like pretty new coming back to it, and if you're leveling very fast, you can get to like 230, 235 and be like, oh, that's how this works. And then you realize you've been kind of brute forcing the whole way through. And if you put those things in order, then it's like, oh, this is how easy it's supposed to be right now. Okay, I thought it was getting a little bit slow.
Yeah, I'm having a different experience with my Nightwalker because I think I have 3 out of the 4. And
I think you
on
want
my
3,
Kain,
right?
Yeah, it's 3 on Kain, I'm pretty sure.
Well, yeah, you 3 sets or 3.
I don't know how to explain it, but like
Yeah,
6
tri-node
slots
sets.
total, right?
Yeah. Because I think on Nightwalker you want, what was it again? I think it was because you're in the same situation where you have an amount of skills that you want to boost, where it's better to just leave one skill unboosted because it saves you an entire, or like half unboosted because it saves you an entire boost node.
Yeah.
And of course, early on, like an extra slot means an extra skill, which is crazy. Yeah, so I think as a Nightwalker, you do use 3 total nodes. You just want to make sure that you have Quintuple, Shadow Spark, Shadow Bat, and Dark Omen double boosted, and then you take 1 of whatever you want.
Yep, I pretty much got that.
Yeah.
Just I think 1 away, and so.
Yeah, so you can take those growing pains out of with a new character, and that's why I usually say to people as well, like, don't try to min max or go. Don't try to like run before you can walk on your first character. You know, explore the game, look at which areas you enjoy, which areas you don't enjoy, what kind of content you like doing, what kind of content you don't like doing. I know there's a lot of pressure immediately, directly and indirectly on you to have to. I'm ESLing super hard right now to have to.
It's okay.
Perform, right? Like you have to grow, you have to progress, you have to get stronger, number go brrr, and then but then you can get to a point where you're like, where was the fun supposed to be in all of that, right? So you do have the kind of like the social safety net, I guess, of like your friends and doing stuff together, so that can kind of help you with the pacing, I think. But sometimes people get like swept up in a guild, and then they're expecting a bunch of you, and then you go to that. I always try to bring it back to like what is fun. Try to enjoy your fun, enjoy the game, right? Enjoy your time here, and the best way to do that is to experience as much content as possible, so you can find for yourself what is enjoyable.
Yep, I agree.
I guess we talked about the Kain nodes recently. You're familiar with those and what to go for there?
Yeah, so right now I think I have 1/2 of the second trio, so Phantom Blade Chain Sickle, and that's it. Like, that's it.
More is not happening.
I've been super unlucky, I think, with opening as soon as I found out about this. But like right now, I just have placeholders. They're not really optimal, if that makes sense, but because they're not perfect or anything, or based on what's on that list, but. Like my strike arrow is super low level, and it's not very good for, I guess, my overall, just because it's one of my main attacks, right? And it's
strike arrow. Wait, Falling Dust is the one that goes like upwards on the empowered,
that's
right?
when
with
you
the
jump
dragon?
up on the empowered, yeah.
And then strike arrow, is that the cone?
Yes, the cone.
Okay. And Dragon Fang is one of the toggles.
Yeah, the toggles, and yeah.
Wait, no, is Scattering Shot the cone? Hang on. No, Strike Arrow is the straight one, right?
Oh, sorry, yeah, the straight one. The Scattering Shot is the cone, yeah.
Yeah, and then Shaft Break is the suck thing, where it like...
Suck one.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so Strike Arrow is kind of like your main attack in the beginning. Although, like, the one thing is, you have this feigning of scarcity because you have cartridges for everything, but you get so many cartridges for everything so fast that you can pretty much just keep spamming. You just have to rotate skills.
Yep.
But in the beginning, you're like, oh no, everything is limited, but it's not really that limited. You can just keep going.
Yeah, you just rotate, and then they're probably up by the time you get your executes off, and rinse and repeat.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just so that you don't just hold down one button the whole time. It forces you a bit more to rotate the skills.
Yeah, that's kind of what I enjoy about it too. It was pretty fun.
Okay, but we'll get into the details of the Matrix once we get to all that. Okay, so short-term, mid-term, long-term. Yeah, so you basically have a little more like ethereal, graspy goals of like, I guess this is supposed to be what you get at these stages. So it's like connected to that? Yeah, I see a lot of question marks. So let's try to fill in those question marks with more...
solid goals. And,
that you feel confident with, like this is what will help me do the things around the stages that I'm looking at, plus feel reasonable to be able to attain for your situation. That it's not like, okay, this is just impossible.
Yeah.
There's a few different, I don't know if you know this for yourself. What helps for you for goal setting? Do you set a goal that is kind of out there and that motivates you, or do you put a goal exactly what you know is feasible or a little bit beyond? Like, what motivates you in goal setting?
I guess what's feasible at the time, and depending on the situation. Like, I guess as like a kind of a side goal, I don't have a perm heart yet, so like that fairy heart that's coming out, I've been saving up to buy that because it's $2 and that's a goal that I've been working on, so I know that's tangible. I could do it, no problem. But like just seeing, I guess, the end of the tunnel feels good, if that makes sense. Like if I can see these goals come to fruition, or I'm getting close, that's what really motivates me the most. Like even when like leveling Legion characters, I'm like, oh cool, I'm almost 140, I could just push, and that's like a big achievement for me, kind of thing.
So the last sprint kind of thing, that's when some people can get discouraged, like, ugh, it's already been so long and I'm still not there, and you're like, oh, I'm almost there, and then that last thing actually gives you the push to be able to get that last little bit.
Same with symbols too, right? It's like, oh yes, Lacaline is almost
counting down the last level for me always feels faster than like the level before that. Because like, oh my god, it's still not, but it's like 19. You're like, oh, it's already 10%. It's already 20. It's only 70% left. Only 60% left, and then the last level feels pretty good. Yeah.
I haven't tried to further my progression in Dream Defender yet, but I think I could get higher. I'm like at 50 right now, I think. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. The more you are a burst class, the harder it is, right? Because you need to DPM your way up. And if you have pretty long cooldown skills, then that's pretty tricky to do to climb. We can talk about strategy and things you can try there. The last thing, because you did mention that you do mention like 2 to 3 hours dailies. My concern there is that you might be doing quote unquote wrong dailies, in the sense that you might be what happens to some people with like the boss crystals and stuff. When trying to min-max they're actually doing the opposite of min-maxing. So in the sense of trying to get a certain list of all the dailies done to sell the crystals, sometimes taking that time away from actually training or playing or progressing can actually be like a net negative, because of, again, cutting down a little bit in the meso maybe, but then getting a whole lot of extra experience to go with it, which would help your character progress more to a stage where you can make even more money, and then that being a net kind of holding you back by trying to min-max in your current time versus in the whole space-time thing that you have available, basically.
I guess I can clarify the 2 to 3 hours. I think that's more on the 2-hour spectrum rather than 3.
Sure.
My routine basically for dailies is on my main, do Morass or Vanishing Journey all the way to Morass. And then I
symbol dailies, right?
Yeah, symbol dailies. Then I do my Monster Park, Ursus.
So which Monster Park do you do? Do you do the furthest one with the EXP?
Yeah, I do the furthest with EXP. I usually take maybe 1.5 to 2 minutes. Do my Legion, and then Commercy is what I do as well, just to get coins. It's pretty quick. But then I usually get that done within an hour. And then the second hour is just on my Nightwalker, just doing some dailies there. I can definitely cut back on the Nightwalker, just, but with the event going on, I like to cap on my Pink Bean on both characters. So that's sort of the 2 hours. And, if it's a third hour, it's usually I'm just chilling, talking, or, taking my time with it rather than just focusing head down,
Yeah, grinding it out,
Yeah.
So for capping, are you capping with a purpose of buying a certain item?
So yeah, I still have a lot of the symbols to buy. I think I finished buying the Morass symbols on my main. I think I bought half of Lacaline and Arcana. And I feel like before the event ends, I can probably buy out Esfara once I get there within 5 levels. I'm pretty sure I could do that. So.
Are you good on Spirit Saver?
Yeah. What's the max that you can get? I usually get 10k.
Yeah, you can get up to 30 coins a day, so that would be 10k.
Yeah.
10 coins per run, or if you have Morass, ideally you try to see if you can get a 15k run, and then you can just skip the second run, auto complete the last one, and then be done with only getting 15k points instead of 20, I guess. If
Yeah.
that's feasible for you, that could speed that up a little bit.
Yeah, I think the highest I've ever gotten was like 12.5, and then that's usually when time is up. I've tried to make it more efficient, but I use Shadow Step to usually just get back to the main platform, but ropes help a lot. And
when you say main platform, you mean like the middle?
Oh yeah, the middle. Sorry.
To hand them in, right? Yeah, no. Just to clarify, I'm not saying you're like misnaming things. Just to clarify what you're talking about.
yeah. To hand them in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, because what I like to do to hand in is I like to always come from like just the ones to the side, like finish that one off and then jump in from the side, or the top middle ones. And then basically like down jump on the edge of the corner and then fall off to the outside and then just flash jump in under like a diagonal. And I would save the burst step if possible to stop momentums on jumpers. So like if you have a jumper to a certain direction and then you can use it upwards to completely block your momentum plus turn it into vertical mobility. For example, if you want to take the bottom left and bottom right jumpers and you need to go pretty straight up, but like a slightly diagonal straight up into the outward side, that you like take the jumper and then into an up jump and then possibly into your rope connector to basically shorten the direction even more. But if you need it as a finisher in the end, because he's getting kind of close to you, you need to like dash out of the way, then that's definitely a good trick. But you have to jump for that, right? Because if you use it on the ground, it's pretty short.
Yeah. And I don't have the double shadow step ping thing. yeah, that could be scary too. I've seen some videos on that. It's like, whoa, lucky in some cases, I guess, but.
Yeah, for me, I think it only works on vertical for me as well. The other ones doesn't seem to trigger because it's a very, very tight window, and you have to be pretty laggy for it to work. Yeah.
But for those spirits, they're all RNG, right? There's no like actual pattern for where they spawn. It's straight up RNG on those, or is there a way to manipulate?
Yeah,
like,
I think you can manipulate. Because of course they can't spawn when there already is one. There was a bug for a while where that could happen, and you could sometimes kill two at once, which was interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was weird. You had like spawn bugs. I've seen some people kind of manipulate, because what happens is if you leave like one side, like what happens is if you leave like the top left and the top right, for example, completely, and you never go there. This is like people trying to do like 25k runs, right? You want to be able to move very quickly from one side to the other. So typically they don't move all the way to the outsides and all the way back in, because that's just too big of a time waste. So they've got like a few patterns that they've memorized on going from point A to point B very well. And if you leave the outsides and you never grab that one, I believe, but I'm not 100% on that, but I believe it's kind of the same pattern as with Dream Defender, where the next one to spawn is just the one that died the most recently.
Oh, I didn't notice that for Dream Defender. Interesting.
Yeah, because usually I go like all over the place as well, so it's kind of like hard to tell where the pattern starts and where it ends. But I've seen some people do like the same, like alternating between 2 or 3 different patterns in the middle and just keeping the top left and the top right available, and seeing them getting some really, it's like, this seems too good to be like RNG. They must kind of know beforehand like where it's going, because they're like already on the way and it hasn't even spawned in the map yet.
Yeah, there are some times where I had some really like lucky and then unlucky runs, but I think the unlucky ones just fall of me like messing up a rotation or something, because I usually just go, if there's some at the bottom, and then I work my way up and then around from the top to the other side. Yeah. And that's usually 5 by then, and then hand in.
Yeah, and then
repeat.
hand in,
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the hand in on the second from the middle on either left or right, where you basically just down jump, and then before you even hit the platform, you flash jump. So you basically just make a diagonal fall all the way down into the middle.
Yep.
That's usually a good one. Unless the spirit is too close, then you want to double down jump and then diagonal, because then he goes horizontal for a bit first, and you can go underneath him.
Yeah, I've been juking the spirit a little bit,
Yeah, and the second and the right side on the bottom, where you basically, if he's coming for you, you just go all the way down, and then you just flash jump under him, and then just flash jump to the middle. That's usually a pretty safe one as well.
Yeah, I don't really know too much of the hitbox, but like as soon as you're at like 4 or 5,
Yeah,
sometimes
you got to be super careful.
Kind of crazy. It's
Yeah,
like, okay, did that hit me? Like, okay.
Yeah, no, it's more of a okay, dude, if you say so.
Yeah. I guess I'll just fail the run. Cool.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Oh, the other one that can also work if you're really, really in a tight spot and you're like 4 and you stand on the 5th one, you wait until he comes like right on top of you, and then you just hit him, pick up, and then jump through during the transformation.
Oh, that's sketchy.
Yeah, that's sketchy. But that could be like a last resort, but that can definitely work.
Sure.
But yeah, you don't want to count on that too much. Oh, and the other thing that might happen, I don't know if it ever happens to you. Do you ever feel like you get caught when you only have 4 and he's like not stopping when you're hitting the 5th one and he catches up to you?
Yeah, I've seen that.
That can be because of toggles, because sometimes the toggles can fly around and hit one that's really close and trigger the other one without you realizing. So it might be a better idea to lose the toggles to make sure that it absolutely doesn't happen.
Spirit Saver? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you feel like that happens a decent amount. It's usually on the bottom.
Like once or twice, yeah.
Yeah. It's usually on the bottom. Those 2 on the bottom are pretty close, and sometimes the toggles can trigger the other ones.
On the flip side, I think that helped me for one run, though.
Yeah, that's also possible.
So
if you're
close.
super fast, yeah, you could be like, bam, and the other one gets killed. It's already on the way. You dash into it. Yeah, that's possible. It's kind of like the blue spirit circle for Kana, right? It like floats up. Usually you don't think much of it, but then it can actually, if the one above it spawns, it can actually kill that one, and then you're like, wait, why is it so fast? Yeah, and then, and like with Adele, the range is a little bit bigger on those toggles as well. They can, so that can be something that helps you sometimes.
I'm only at 1. Why is it so fast?
Yeah, it's like, why is he not stopping? It must be bugged. And then, you just don't realize that you actually hit another one. Yeah, that's one of the small benefits of the spell bullets for Arc actually having a pretty small range, is that almost never happens. It's pretty impossible for that to trigger because of the small range they have. If you can fit all those dailies in an hour, then that seems fine. It's not like an insane amount of insane amount of time that you can save on that, I would say. Okay. Right, should we just start with the questions and then see where that leaves all of us?
Yeah, I didn't really have any like specifically asked questions, more just topics on things I want to touch on.
For sure.
So
okay, Legion, hyper stats, hyper skills.
So I guess my main questions here is just to if what I have right now is good for what I need, and should I change anything out, basically. What value can I get? Because I've been thinking about lowering the dex and hyperstats and increasing crit damage. If that's more valuable right now versus something else maybe is more optimized, if that makes sense. But
so I like to take for like explanation wise and stuff, I like to take Legion, hyperstats, and link skills completely together. And in like the general priority of applying the stats, it is basically the same. So it all comes down to finding a healthy balance within each system, but within the systems holistically as well, on how far do you push on certain things. With the main value there being hyperstats, because it has incremental costs as you go higher. So that one is one to be careful of, especially in the beginning, not to like, if you have something that's level 11 and something else that's level 2, with the exception of, it being stats that are just where you throw your side points into, or something that you just don't need, right? But if it's if it's a relevant stat and one is level 11, one is level 2, that probably means that somewhere else something needs to be optimized a little bit better, whether it's an extra link skill or it's whether moving your stuff around in your Legion grid. Because with your hyperstats, the increased inefficiency, I guess, with how much more costly every level is, it kind of asks for a gradual increase of stats that is fairly equal. Now, the exception could be like if you're a dual blade or something and you have, your kit is just overflowing with IED, you could go very low on the IED, but it's like very, very highly specific for certain situations and very exceptional to have those kind of distribute or distinct numbers in the stats. And that comes from the Legion, and Links is basically your main source of giving you the outside grid stats, right? So critical rate, critical damage, IED, and boss damage. The combination of Links and Legion that comes from that is insanely high. you add the hyperstats to that, and it's basically in the beginning that's like 99% of your foundation together with your kit, right? Your foundation of being able to hit crits, hitting hard, hitting monsters, and hitting monsters hard in that order, basically. And that's also the order of priorities I would give to them. So make sure that you hit 100% crit, make sure that you boost your crit damage. That'll help with mobbing and bossing. And then once you start focusing more on bossing, make sure that your ID is high enough. And then what high enough is, we'll get into that. And then if you have anything left over, you move into boss damage. So basically like a counterclockwise order of the outside of your grid, basically, in the priority.
Okay, got it.
And the bigger your grid gets, the more you divest from the middle of your grid, because comparatively, those stats on the outside just become way heavier and heavier in their importance. And your attack and your dex, important as it may be, for your grid, it becomes of a much lower priority. And for your hyperstats, it's also pretty much always a low priority, because it's a very high priority on your equips. Your equips are going to be the thing that gives you the stat and the attack.
Got it.
And that's not like ultimately so, but that's because of the amount of access we have and because of the balance of the stats that exists in the game, right? Like, let's say that the Legion grid stats were completely different, and let's say that the outside stats were garbage. Well, then maybe your hyper stats, you wouldn't even think about putting anything in attack or stat ever. It would always be into critical rate and critical damage, and right, it always comes down to access, and it cycles always back to what I talked about in the beginning, like with final damage and stuff. Like, how can you increase your final damage the most? And if that means, because did you ever play a lab server?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't around for very long, so there was a very narrow window for you to have been playing. But basically, in lab server, you would get a lot of percentage attack and a lot of attack. So, which basically meant that if you got a weapon, you would want to roll % damage on it, because attack already had so much diminishing returns, and there was no percentage damage in anything, that adding a little bit of percentage damage would make your damage go up an enormous amount. Plus, we weren't really trying to boss, we were trying to get to a high level for lab. So it was all about just getting your base damage numbers up as high as possible. So you wanted to go for percentage damage then, because it's always a balance between all of the sources of damage that apply. And I guess the last thing that kind of comes into that is familiars as well, once you get to ID and boss damage there. But those are basically the only two stats. So that has to do with like set bonuses and familiars, and like how do you get to enough ID. And again, we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, that's another topic, but once we get there, we'll talk about that.
yeah, exactly. And then hyper skills is pretty specific per character. I think like 90% of characters just have like, get these hyper skills, and that's just the best for everything. And then the remaining 10% have like, if you're mobbing, you can take this. If you're bossing, you can take that for like a little bit of optimization. Or like that's maybe like 8%, and then there's 2% of classes where it's like you really have to switch every time you're mobbing or bossing, because it's significantly better. But that's like again, that's highly exceptional. I think for Kain, I think it's pretty straightforward. With the last Kain session, what we did as well, are you familiar with like the Kain Discord? Are you in there?
I don't think so, no.
If you join my Discord, I have links to all of the class Discords if you ever want to find them, and to everyone in the chat or watching at home as well. So you can just type !Discord, join mine, and then there's a header on the top left called Class Discords. Yes, and if you find the right one, you can just click join, and you'll be right in there. Most Discords ask you to give like the IGN of your character, for example, so they can give you an appropriate rank, and whether you're main or just like a visitor, and then they'll open up a bunch of rooms to you. And for the Kain Discord, mainly on the top left, there's like an FAQ there with like a little red pin, and that has a bunch of information on invulnerability, hyperstats,
I see it.
V matrix. And I think they have some bossing videos as well further down, with like Kain bossing or something, with some videos of people on specific classes doing specific bosses. So that should and you have access to a bunch of people who've been playing the class for a long time. So if you have very specific Kain questions, or for anyone specific class questions, there's always a better chance there that someone there knows more than me. I know like general game things, and I know some class things that I pick up. But obviously, so many different classes, so many different minute, tips and tricks for certain systems. I can't possibly know all of that. So would always divert to the expert opinion on those things.
Okay. I think my hyper skills are pretty aligned with what they have here, which is good.
That sounds good.
With the exception of like a replacement if depending on the situation with IED. So.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you have the what is it, 25% on the execution
Whisper
one, and then
shot,
15% on the hyper shot. Yeah, on the whisper shot one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we talked about that in the last session as well. This person was a little bit further. They were like level 241, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, so it comes down to like what is your balance of IED and boss damage already. If you're erring like a little bit on the lower side, it might be better to take the IED hyperstat to kind of fill in that gap.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know what's low, or so that's one thing as well. It's I don't know what my numbers represent. If there's more I should focus on one thing rather than the other stat, right? So
exactly. So there's two things, two commands I think can be very helpful for you. So one is !! links. Let me know if you've seen this one.
This one I haven't seen. No.
So this is basically all the link skills and all the Legion skills of all the characters in the game, kind of organized in what I think is a good order to level them in the sense that they help you grow your account faster, and then as your account grows faster, your main character eventually grows faster.
Okay.
So the you can see on the bottom, so like the clear ones are the link skills, and the green squares are the Legion buffs. I kind of take them together because if a character has a slightly better link skill, but their Legion buff is way worse, I would say that character is a lower priority, right?
Okay.
So I kind of add them together and then added a general priority in which stats are more important, like which ones are vital, more utility, more for bossing. Those are a little bit later down the road. Some that are more specific per class, and then some that are just garbage and you don't really need to worry about them. And then based on that, there's like a general progression that I think it's, from an efficiency standpoint, better to grow your Legion as. And if you follow that general line, and of course, if a class is one of those classes that you don't really enjoy, right, that you talked about, you set it aside for a mega burn. Or if a character hits like 140, but you do want to get the 200 or the 210, you like put an asterisk there and like this is the next Terra burn. And then that way you just kind of like go through the classes. If a character that you are playing already has an enormous amount of crit rate and you feel like your Legion is good enough, you can kind of skip crit rate. But in general, crit rate is very, very important, and it's probably the biggest damage increaser on Legion mules on the planet. Because if you don't hit a crit, you don't hit a critical damage, and you just don't kill monsters. You need to hit those crits early on, and if you get all the crit links early, every single Legion character that you level is going to be just so much stronger, and it's one of the main contributing factors to that 70x I was talking about, like compared to Amy. If you're just non-crits are just sad. They're just sad hits. But if you hit a crit and you get that critical damage that you already identified, like getting the shade in there, getting the kinesis, the head, or the jet, every hit is just so hard in the beginning, and that gives you. Arguably, that gives you way faster or better training input than EXP, but the problem is, of course, you want to have a combination of the two, because once you get strong enough to kill, now the experience per kill gets very important, and then that's when EXP then takes over again. So you can even make an argument that crit rate should even maybe be a higher priority than EXP. I just think that the EXP buffs are so significant early on that they do matter more, because if you're going from like 30% crit rate to like 35 or to 40, I don't think that's very interesting. But if you go like the Mercedes immediately giving 10 and then 15% EXP when you have no other, because the access to EXP coupons at the beginning is pretty bad. Like I was talking to someone was it when I was training my burning character yesterday. I was like, where do I get double experience coupons? And I'm like, okay, well you have the Legion. Oh, you don't have Legion yet. Oh, you can do dojo. Oh yeah, you can get dojo coupons. You can get into the top 70%. Oh, I have a compensation. Oh, you didn't play it back then. Well, there's MVP. You can do Monster Park if you have a 105 plus for the gold potions. And then there's the atmospheric effect in every 2 hours in the map, right, from the pink bean buff, and that's about it. That's about the only kind of EXP multiplication. Yeah, and runes. You want to jump on every rune that you see, but yeah. So that's why comparatively the EXP boosters in the beginning are actually great. Yeah. And definitely a 0 if you can get it. I don't know if you have a 0 on Beast Tamer.
No, I have Beast Tamer, but I think that's like level 120-ish Beast Tamer. But for 0, I missed that opportunity. Yep. Hopefully it comes back.
Yeah, should be
at least create it.
Yeah, should be coming back. So definitely make one ASAP for that. The Legion block is huge. Getting to level 200, 10%. It's I always tell people this just to kind of give it the scale, right? Like if you have 8k Legion or 6k Legion and you fill out the entire EXP block in your Legion,
Yeah.
All 40 grids. That's the same amount of experience bonus as the level 200 piece for 0 just by itself.
Oh wow.
Because that's 10%. Because it only give you a quarter percent per grid space, right? So that's
crazy.
Yeah. So sometimes, and again, like kind of like seeing the value of money and of the nodes and all of that, right? To reiterate that, sometimes seeing that like, oh, okay, the shade gives me 3%, but like one block in Legion is 0.5%, so it's basically like 6 blocks. Plus it's 4 blocks the size, so it's basically a 10 block piece versus a 4 block, right? And that's how every single block piece actually gets like a translated block value to more than what it physically is. And that's kind of what we're scaling on, is like, is it like worth 12? Is it worth 11? Is it worth 10, right? And that's kind of how you get this whole order. It's not like as literally translated, but that's basically what it comes down to. And then some are basically just literally just the 4. Like it's just what you see is what you get. There's no added value here, unless you really, really like the character. You have my blessing to go for it. But yeah, some just the secondary and the tertiary value for your account is just lower than all the other ones, and it's not really the character's fault, of course. That's just the design. So when looking for a new character, just like the general order that I have, and you'll probably notice a bunch of the characters on the top that you already have.
Yeah.
That you're aware of. If you look at any other guide, they'll have very, very similar order of doing things. Yeah, and of course the bossing one is a little bit further down. Knockback immunity is a little bit optional, so it's like smushed in between. It gets more important for mobbing at a certain point when it's just really annoying, but it can be higher priority than the bossing stuff, because if you get knocked around and you die to everything, that's worse, of course, than not being able to deal your damage. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then the immunity, right? Then the Spirit of Freedom that we talked about already a little bit.
So what is the Spirit of Freedom, I guess? We're not on... I
should put ID before boss damage. Oh shit, I can't search it. Sorry, yeah?
So Spirit of Freedom is a link for resistance?
Yeah, basically damage resistance for duration upon respawn.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So if you have all of the max, they stack into one slot. If you, or like all at level 2, right? And you have all 4 different characters. If you respawn, you have 8 seconds of immunity. So you could pop like a skill that locks you in place for a while, for example, without any kind of chance of dying. Like that, what's that skill? That purple 5th job execution one?
Fatal Blitz?
Fatal Blitz? Yeah, that one locks you in place for a bit, right?
Yeah, it does.
If that one is a little bit scary to use, you could probably use your Dragon Booster and your Fatal Blitz, because you need those stacks together during the immunity, especially if the boss is kind of close to where you are. Or, you can use it to hop into position like with HMAG, or hop through a laser, or hop through the purple ball, or, anything that would otherwise maybe kill you. In Vellum, sometimes you respawn right into another tail from the last pattern, instantly dead. Those silly deaths are just prevented.
Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty valuable.
Yeah, it lost a little bit of its value because they are working for most of the bosses now of doing in-screen respawn instead of in-map respawn, where the map reloads. And that in-screen respawn does come with I think 1.5 seconds or so of invincibility, so you can't immediately die again. So those two are overlapping a little bit. So the better you get, the more of its initial value it's losing. But you also find it later in Lucid. If the whole map is covered in golems, you can just dash over all the golems or through all the golems, without any kind of negative recourse, and then just start attacking Lucid again. That can also help a lot.
Okay.
You can easily dump Dragon Burst with Fatal Blitz in the 8 seconds from Spirit of Freedom. Oh yeah, so that would be
yeah, for sure. It's like a combo.
Yeah, of course it's not the goal to okay, let me die real quick so I can combo, but it could be like a little bit of silver lining to the death, I guess. Yeah. That's a lot of damage for sure. A Fatal Blitz on max death. Is it Death Stranding? Is that the stacks that you're getting?
Death Blessing.
Death Blessing, yeah.
Yeah.
Max Death Blessing stacks Fatal Blitz is crazy numbers. Yeah. Depending on what kind of damage skin you have, it just blots out the sun kind of kind of thing. Okay. I have to make sure that we don't go over time because we've been having a great time, but we haven't really gotten to most of the meat and potatoes yet. Okay, kind of my bad, but yeah, make sure that we're not here for 3 hours. So this is for that. And if you have any questions, you can always ask people in the chat, or you can DM me. I always try to keep it a little bit up to date. Like, I just noticed that I probably should move the ID and the boss damage, right? Because ID is boss damage is contingent on the ID being there. If you don't have the ID, then you can stack all the boss damage you want, but you're not getting through, right? So, yeah, I should probably switch that. And then the other thing, you're talking about like the numbers, and you don't really know what you're going for. Have you seen? So then you probably haven't seen this one.
I've seen this briefly. Yeah.
It's a lot of numbers.
So functional IED is something that I had questions on. I'm not really sure what that means, if I have it or because I think I'm at the number it shows on my stats is like I think 86 or something. I don't know what that, if it's functional or yeah.
Yeah. So for most of them, maybe this isn't apparent enough, but for most of them, I have notes inserted here. So you can click on like some extra info. So functional ID, I have like check !ID in the Twitch chat, because that has more commands to it. It basically has one video where I explain the difference between visual and functional, and like how ID in general works, and like what it does and why it's important. And there's also a link to calculate your functional ID, so you know exactly what you're working with. And part of that will be class dependent, right? So some classes need basically the visual and the functional. Like the only difference is if your boost nodes are level 40 and you get that extra 20%. But and then maybe if you have the Explorer Mage debuff of like 9%, those can be like the only two things really that you add. Like if you're Kana, for example, that's basically what you see is what you get. And we went over that in the last session, and Kain has very, very little extra visual ID, extra functional ID as well. So you can pretty closely adhere to the visual.
Okay.
Which is like kind of a blessing in disguise. But it can also, if you don't know about that distinction, it could be like, oh, so for Nightwalker I'm doing the same. Nightwalker actually has quite a lot of functional extra. So for Nightwalker you can definitely roll down. But by how much? It's best to just throw it into a simple calculator. And you can also, if you check !ID, there's also a list there of all the types of sources that you have. And if you you open up the two windows, right, you can check, we can do it really quick right now. Won't go over the whole process because it's a little bit tedious. But you've got like the calculator. So this already comes with some numbers. You can just click the sources and it'll just remove them. So you can go all the way down to 0. You can just give it whatever name it is to make sure that that you know which one it is at 30%, and then
that makes
added,
sense.
and then it'll just show up like that, and it'll just calculate for you. Yeah, because of the diminishing returns, it'll just tell you exactly what the number is, and this will be your functional ID that you directly can compare to what you're looking for in the different stages of the game. And this number comes from how much is reasonably accessible and how much is a reasonable number to have based on the PDR, based on the armor of the bosses that you're fighting around that time, basically.
Okay.
And then the other one is the sources. Oh, I opened it twice. Which is basically like a list of types of sources, and you can just go like one by one and be like, okay, ambition, what level is it? Enter the number. Equip base stats, okay, see if you have any of these, add the number, and then you slowly see the number go up. And then here's like the functional sources, right? So for you, it'll be like almost nothing. And for these, you also have to be a little bit, because it's functional, you have to be a little bit cautious, because of if something happens all the time to one skill, but that skill is only like 10% of your damage, you want to be careful in applying that number to your whole functional IED, because it's only going to apply 10% of the time. So that's going to be a little bit, you got to be a little bit careful for that. But like if you have all of your skills boosted to level 40 and all of your fourth job skills together have like a decent chunk of the damage you deal, and maybe some of the fifth job skills that also do decent damage, some of them have extra IED built into them, then you can add that as a full number all the time.
Okay.
We did just add him to the Kain Discord as well, Smidley. That's something that we made sure to do, just to like double check on the details with everything.
That's probably a good resource to check up after this too. So
yeah, exactly. There'll be some bunch of things will probably get cleared up, and if they don't, there's a bunch of people there who know way more about the class specifically, so they can no doubt help you out. So this is like a general kind of borderline checklist, and I think kind of what you were trying to get at with like the short-term, mid-term, long-term goals, right? It's almost like you're trying to make the same thing, where this is basically, I think, if you're close to these numbers, some can be a little bit higher, some can be a little bit lower, then you'll be able to do the content that I think is designed within the game for around your level.
Okay.
And when it comes to content around your level, I have another one for that, the dailies or bosses, whatever. And basically this one, so this first screen is looking at like what is the value of certain things, like what kind of drops, what kind of souls, what kind of crystal value. Is the bossing experience relevant, in my opinion, to doing later bosses? Like if you're doing normal arc, that's not really... Excuse me, that's not really relevant. You just bind and burst that guy. It's like whatever. It doesn't help you doing Magnus later or something. But some bosses, like if you do Magnus properly, that actually gives you quite some good insights later for bosses like Will. Will is very similar in that you want to fight him in the middle of the map, so you learn about your positioning. Plus, you also need to keep enough distance so you don't get knocked around. Like with Magnus's swipe attack, Will has very similar attacks where he pushes you around the map as well, which can have devastating consequences. So you have to fight those bosses in similar ways. So I think getting better at one boss fight does set you up for success in the other one quite quickly. And the faster you see the resemblances, and the more you've tried the boss before, the more you'll be like, hey, I remember this pattern. I see what this guy is doing. It's the same as this other guy was doing, and I got to be careful here.
Okay.
Let me close that. So this basically takes into account the same level as with the progression grid. So as long as your numbers are within these bounds or roughly equal, you'll be able to do the content around that level, depending on what kind of content it is. On the early side, more with parties, bigger parties, and then later on solo, of course. And some of them have like mentions if it's weeklies, if it shares, what level. Rough. And these are like rough estimates, of course, right? It's not like, oh, I'm 225, I have to be able to do this, otherwise I'm garbage. It's more like you can start easing into it and you can start practicing it. And some classes might be able to clear a little bit sooner. Some like support classes might struggle a little bit more in the beginning, might need bigger parties, etc.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I'll refer to this one a little bit more.
Yeah, and I put as much possible as well, like links here on the side to the wiki, so you can see stuff like what kind of the drops again, and like the PDR and how much HP it has and all that stuff, for details if it's needed. And if there's like bossing videos, I added them at the end here for the more difficult bosses as well. There's like some video guides by some Korean dude who makes videos of all the skill animations and what they look like, how much % damage they hit, what the timers are, how to dodge them, that kind of stuff.
Very in depth,
yeah, so again, this is definitely no replacement for the actual thing, but it's a good thing to start off with, that you kind of know what you can expect, and you can be like, oh, that's that skill. Okay, that's why I got absolutely destroyed, right? Because the further you go, the more stuff is going on, and the harder it is to pinpoint, like, this is the exact thing that went wrong. Like, I kind of stopped posting bossing guides. I mean, if you got everything up to Black Mage, the only thing to make now is Seren, right? Or he's saying he didn't post one for every single boss. Yeah, so like a lot of resources here. Of course, I'm not telling you like look at everything right now. Look at it. Sure. But as time goes on, some things you might need a little bit more help on, and some things might be self-explanatory, and you can just blow through it. And but then at least you know where to. These two things together, hand in hand, try to kind of say like, okay, what can you do around your level? Can you not do it? Look at the game stages, see where you're lacking, and if you focus on that more, on average, your time will be spent more efficiently, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
So some people go like super hard on this, on the stats, on the potential, and maybe their Legion will be underdeveloped, and they can see very clearly if they look at this, like, oh, if I work more on my Legion now, they'll be way more efficient than, trying to push for 3-line potential on everything, because I'll have way more stat then, but I'm lacking in critical damage, IED, boss damage, those kind of things, right? That's where I'm lacking now, and that'll come from Legion.
I don't know where I should really, like, I haven't really touched my equips, but I've gotten to the point where I am right now. That's really it. So.
Do you see any, like, if you look at these numbers, do you see any big differences with your stat window and where you're at?
I'm not too sure about the flame scores, but I have a lot of flames on my equips right now that are okay, I think. Boost nodes and skill nodes, definitely, that's something I think I need to work on, because I don't think I've hit 40 on any.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Other
pretty
than
looks
that,
like the end stage. Yeah.
everything else is pretty lined up, I think.
Okay.
I've reached 100 crit already. I think I'm at 104.
Mm-hmm.
So
You're around 3K Legion, right? So that's...
yeah, I'm 3.3 almost.
Okay, yeah. And we got a Terror Burn coming, so that'll be 3.5 easily.
Yeah.
Okay.
Star Force, I think, lines up. Yeah, just Flames, I think I'm there. I don't know what. Yeah.
Yeah, you say you think they're pretty good, so how do you evaluate your Flames, I guess?
I try to get the main stat, and then if there's secondary, and then all stat. I'm not sure if that's a good indicator of, but yeah.
Yeah, that's an indicator.
I don't know.
That's more like would it be like the unscientific indicator, right? It's like number is big, so must be good. What it comes down to kind of is not literally, but it kind of comes down to like we look at every item, like what is the general potential of this item, like how good can it possibly be, and then we take a rough percentage of what is realistic of how much money you spend at this stage, at this form of upgrading of Flames, and as a result, what is a flame that is just value-wise good enough, and what is one that can very easily be upgraded on and is kind of like wasted potential for not buying Flames on,
I've seen the calculator for Flames, and it gives you a rough value based on the stats you put in. I guess my biggest thing would be like you said, it's like what's good enough. I think what I have is good enough for now, and I don't have to really prioritize it, but
yeah, so I have a video going more in depth on that as well with like some examples, so you can kind of see like, okay, this item in this situation could be good enough, this item in this in a different situation, maybe the same item is like, okay, now it's actually a little bit lower and now it's a higher priority. And it explains differences with, you know, like flame advantage, no flame advantage, weapon flames, item flames, and the stat comparisons as well. Kind of depends on, I don't know which calculator you're using, but also depends on like what stage of the game you're in, like how far you are, plus what what class you might be. Also relies on how good a flame is, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So it kind of looks at that, and it goes hand in hand with the calculator as well on like how to look at a certain item, and basically, and it also like calls back to the progression grid, right, to the numbers in there and how you read those numbers. And it'll help you see basically for any number on any item, once you know the parameters of like, does it have flame advantage or not, what level am I in, and what is a realistic number for me to aim for, how do I calculate the flame score on an item, and you know, what should it potentially be based on those parameters. Is this something I need to work on now? Do I need to work on it ever, or is it just something for later? And it helps you prioritize. Yeah, and the other main prioritization is kind of like, when is Flames in general an important thing? And it definitely can be important when it's flame advantage stuff, and the higher the level, the more important it is. But overarchingly, it doesn't have an event, right? It's not like Star Forcing and cubing when there's sometimes events. So in general, it's more of a thing you kind of do on the side with the flames that you get from bosses and from events to slowly bring up the ones with the biggest potential to be reasonable. And it's not until the Star Force upgrades become so ridiculously expensive, or the amount of backups you need just aren't there yet. And the potentials are also at a stage where, you know, now they're pretty good. If I wanted to min-max, this is like 20 to 30 bill per item. This is getting a little bit yikes. Then Flames becomes a really good option, because then with like 5 to 10 bill per item, you can make some very significant gains. Plus, at that point, you'll have all the percentages on your equips there to capitalize on those stat gains on the Flames. Right? Because if the percentages aren't there, the increases in main stat in the Flames, again, because it's all about the balance of the sources of damage in your account, if those percentages aren't there, then it's not going to have adequate value of your Flames. And if you do the Flames early, they will have a good flame score, but it won't necessarily result in a lot of damage increase because your potentials might not be there. That's why you kind of want to spread your funding over all of these sources to equally bring them up and not go too hard on one over another one.
Okay, yeah, that's sort of one thing, because a lot of my equips are very low percent stat. Like, a lot of it is still epic.
Yeah.
And I've been hesitant to sort of try to cube or something, because I'm like, okay, what if this gets replaced, or what if, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
So like a lot of my rings is just like epic or even rare with like maybe 0 or max 3% dex or something. And I guess rings is probably a good one to try and focus on. I feel because maybe I get legendary meso or drop, and that could help
for sure.
Yeah. So I think,
So wait, okay. So questions, because we're already coming up on an hour and a half, and I've been really wordy with all my shit. So let's try to stay. So Legion hyperstats, hyperscale. Yeah. So for the details, for hyperstats, for the details, I have a video as well that kind of goes into like balancing out, right, making sure you don't get that huge disparity, big number, small number. And balancing out that with the Legion grid and with the link skills is going to be the main thing. We look at the link skills. We can look at the link skills, but like if you look at the links grid,
has also,
and the Discord probably has more in depth, like for training these, for bossing these. If you're more,
I think I'm okay with that
one. As you get more burst heavy, definitely lean into the angelic buster, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Probably has that mentioned, because you do get quite burst heavy as a Kain, of course. In Innerability, it probably has the best in slot one. I also have Innerability command in my channel, which will talk about not just what is the best in slot to go for, but and I recently, when we did the other session, I kind of copied their best in slot and added it to my command, where it also has a list of like how do you go about building that best in slot, because just knowing where you need to go is only one piece of the puzzle. Knowing how to get there is arguably the more important part. Because you have a very limited resource in Honor EXP, so you don't want to go overboard in spending that in the wrong positions or in the wrong situation. So it has, it kind of has that.
I'd seen your IA stuff. Oh, okay, so 20 boss, 20 crit is 1 and 2. Okay, I have 17 boss. That's it. Okay.
Yeah, the beginning of the top line is like by far the most important, but as you go into the game, you'll increasingly realize that like the second line and getting that unique line, that's the tricky part. That's because that's gonna have to roll with circulators. That's gonna set you back, and then once you have that, you want to re-roll that top line. So that's a pretty big investment. And what some people will do is they won't even rely on the IED or whatever crazy top line you can get for a while, and will just rely on meso or drop there for the increased character progression until they get to the position where now I want to hard commit to bossing.
That's true.
Now we're going to really commit to the Innerability, and then they'll do that full switch of basically going from a mobbing IA to a bossing IA.
Got it. Yeah.
But you need like the financial means and honor experience built up, like several million honor probably to. Not to give you like horror story, but like so the last character I did it on. I've already had like a bunch of sessions of like, I'll throw 2 bill, I'll throw 4 bill, I'll throw 3 bill at circulators to try to see if I can hit a 20 crit. Never worked. And then the last one, I was like 600 mil circulators in or something, and I hit the 20 crit. So everyone was like, oh, streamer luck, but it's like, you have to incorporate all of the billions I've already spent, of course.
Yeah. Sorry, I muted you. I didn't hear the money. No, just kidding.
Yeah, like my mom has spent I think 18 bill on circs, on just sale circs back when we used to have those, but those seem to be gone, to try to hit like the 38% buff duration on the second line, and she never saw that on her bishop. So it's like, but I also know someone else who tiered up to legendary and got 38 buff on a second line on the tier up. So it's somewhere in between.
Okay, I think I'm okay for now. If I make some crazy roll for mesos or drop, then cool, I'll keep it and then work on that later, because it seems like something I'll eventually get to. Okay.
Yeah, I think it took me about 3 mil during a 50% off, 3 mil of locking the 20 crit to get back my attack speed +1 that I needed for my top line. So of course boss is a little bit more variance, so it could be. Actually, I think it's the same percentage, but you have like variance within the lines, right? And that's explained in that second link where there's a different weight to all of the numbers within the tiers as well. So that could give you more insight as well on how rare the line is that you actually got.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to have like several million after you roll that second stat to be able to regain your first stat, guaranteed. So you get lucky, you can get it on the second roll, or you could be unlucky and be several millions deep. Hang on, we were at the here. Questions goes to this one. Okay. Familiars and badges.
For that we can. I don't think we need to touch too much on it. I just have bad luck in finding familiars. I can't for the life of me find blue snails.
Blue snails.
Yeah, blue snail to try and get the
just get the
Harbor
set?
one. It's
Yeah.
it's just rough, man. I spent like half an hour to an hour. I'm like, okay, I'm just not gonna worry about this right now.
Yeah. Well, you have one badge, but you're trying to go for the 10. Is that what you're?
Yeah, I'm trying to go for a 10. I mean, I actually spent less time on the time badge, I think, than I did trying to find blue snail, and so it's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, eventually I'll get it if I feel bored and want to do badges. Then
yeah. And unless you can get to actual 10, there's no real pressure of moving in there anyway, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, for familiars, I have a command as well that basically just lays down all the numbers, and it basically has some advice on the bottom, and it has like a tier list of which badges are good to get. What are all the stats you can possibly get in familiars? In the different tiers, and what's the third one? What would be important? Hang on, let me check my own guide, see what's in there, see what's good.
I think, because right now I have IED familiars, which is fine.
Oh yeah, the stacking, for like drop rate and meso drop rate, and how all of that stacks exactly.
That's on my to-read list right now, so I'm reading up on a lot of stuff, so it makes sense to me.
Yeah, some things just work how they work, and you just have to know. You can't try to logically try to devise. You'll notice pretty quickly, or after a while at least, that if you try to apply like logic to how a lot of stuff works in MapleStory, you end up wrong. So you kind of just have to learn how it works and then just go off of that and not try to imply like, oh, this should be how it. No. That's that can send you on a wild goose chase to God knows where. You just have to learn how it actually works and go from there.
So I'm okay on that topic.
Okay, cool. Gear, priority for the upgrading, we talked about that a little bit, so we're going to gear. Boss strategy, we talked about that as well, right?
Yeah.
You feel more confident with trying those out?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to try and just go practice mode and run out the clock and see what happens. I think once I have that down, then I should be able to clear CVEL and maybe CPAP.
Yeah, it's perfectly normal to like first learn how to completely avoid everything, be like, okay, I'm a god at this boss now, nothing can hit me. Then get overconfident and then get absolutely clapped and be like, okay, maybe I'm not that good. And then constantly try to find the healthy balance between where do I have to respect the boss and where do I have to say, fuck you, I know what you're going to do. Like, I know before you doing it, I know what you're going to do. So I know exactly what I can do to capitalize on that. It's just about learning to know the boss inside and out so you can hard capitalize on his weaknesses and respect the boss when you need to, but as little as possible, basically. Recommendations on pink bean, black bean as a shop. Yeah, sure. Kind of went over that, right? You already bought at the nodes, you're working on the symbols.
Yeah, I think that's should fill up most of what I spent on. Black beans.
You have a soul bag?
Yes, I bought that.
Yep,
because it was taking a bunch of use.
Oh yeah, it's so valuable for your inventory space. Yeah.
And Meso Shop, I'm really just focusing on the heart, but like really I'm focusing on symbols. I think that's the main thing. Node stones and all that stuff to help with the boost, and then anything else is just extra, I feel. Yeah,
that's why I also asked about Spirit Savior, because you mentioned like buying the Arcana ones, because Arcana actually levels up pretty quickly as long as your Spirit Savior is good, and it'll catch up to Lacaline and surpass it very quickly. So usually the priority is like Esfera, Morass, Lacaline, like that order. So as long as you can service those, then you can buy whatever else you want. But if you can do those three, if there's any other items that you want, I would probably put them as priority, like right behind nodes, those three, and then usually then it's like event rings or something, but that's not a factor in this shop. So then after that, it would be the priority of like any other items you want, and then if you have leftover, you can buy a bunch of Arcana or maybe even Choo Choo. If you're feeling splurgy at the end and you have like a bunch of points left and nothing really utility to be able to purchase, then you can do whatever you want, of course. But you have the soul bag. I think I'd have to look at the exact shop, but I think you have pretty much everything. There's nothing like that jumps out at me that's like, oh my god, I can't believe you didn't buy X yet.
I sort of made a list. I'm like, okay, what should I kind of focus on? And I didn't really look at anything else. It's like the symbols are the ones that are glaring, obviously. But yeah, it's if there's anything else, I mean, cool. I mean, we don't have access to Meso Shop yet, but it's on the thing, so. Like, I'm not worried about the flame stuff. I don't think I'm gonna buy unless it's extra that I have. I'm like, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing that's kind of overlooked, that sometimes I think could be worth it, is honor EXP, because of how pricey an ability can be later on.
Okay.
Yeah, once you have a lot of drop rate when you're mobbing, you get a decent amount of honor experience just from mobbing, right? And once you get to doing a lot of weekly bosses, you get a decent amount of honor from that as well. But there's extra honor from the dojo if you do that, and there's extra honor from the event shops, which I think shouldn't be completely neglected. Should probably buy them every now and then if you have some left over, because because it can get that pricey, and if you're just waiting on those millions of honor experience to really commit to your inner ability, that can take year plus, like years before you get to those numbers. Just so to speed up that process, you could consider honor EXP in the shop.
Yeah, I'm pretty patient with how I'm spending it. I believe we have a few days after the event to just till the shop closes, so I'm kind of just waiting.
Yeah, you have time for sure. And that's the same thing with the heart. Like, you want to make sure you don't miss out, but you have a long time to buy it. So if you're doing Ursus and Maple 2, or at least like the regular runs daily, you'll make that money in like 2 weeks always, right? So that's that's like a 2 bill income. So as long as you make sure that you have that set aside, but there's no immediate rush to jump on that.
Yeah, I'm just so hesitant. I'm like, I want to spend it, but I don't want to spend it. So.
For sure. What's your next step in general before his bad luck? Yeah. I guess we could look at the matrix real quick to make sure that we have all of that on point, and then we can go into the equips.
Okay.
Yes. Wait. Okay. We talked about the hyperstats. Zoom. Yeah. So you're setting up those last 2 sets of nodes now.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then for optimization, people try to have the execution ones, I guess mostly together with Death Blessing, right? So that it doesn't really hurt you too much in mobbing not to have them on, so you can go harder on the skill nodes when you're mobbing.
Yeah. I think I just got to get lucky with some of the nodes, because it's one thing because I have one that is like level 14, I think, and it's a higher level node, and it's not really efficient, I guess, in the node. It's working for me, but I need to get something with the same top line, so it's kind of limiting my opportunity for some things, right?
This is the suck one, the general attack one, and the Dragon Fang, right?
Yeah. I wish that the suck one was like the Falling Dust instead.
Falling Dust, yeah.
Yeah, because that would really help in that sense, because I don't want to just disassemble that one, because it's not worth
for sure.
Put so much into it, right? So
yeah, well, that's the thing, right? And maybe this will help you. Are you crafting nodes or node stones?
So I'm trying to craft the nodes, and specifically because strike arrow is on that first line on that one, so strike arrow nodes, and then seeing if I could get that one I need, and then I'll just move that over into that one.
Yeah, so I get that part. But the downside of that is what you're seeing now is that node is over-leveling the other ones by quite a bit, because you're crafting so many of them. So that's losing you efficiency on the other ones, experience per shard-wise. So I think what would be better for your situation is to craft node stones. Do you know how to do that?
Nope.
If you go to crafting, instead of doing like craft nodes, just above that should be a button. Craft nodes, stones.
Okay.
And then for 35 shards, you can just craft additional nodes, and you can just open those up. And because you're looking for 6 pairs, and all of your skills are pretty much clustered together, so pretty much every single node can be a potential tri-node. True. And because you have more chance of opening nodes, so value-wise, you'll get more skill nodes. This is going to be way better value for you.
I'll start doing that now.
And you'll more evenly be able to level up all your nodes. So efficiency-wise per shard should go up.
Okay, perfect.
But that's mainly the only thing I would do. I think your other skills, I think it all makes sense. Not 100% on the priority if the Thanatos Ascent is the most important. I'm not sure on that, but I think in the Discord, there should probably have like a general order of skill importance. Yeah. I would probably put Holy Symbol in the leveled up slot. for mobbing, right? And then for bossing, maybe take it out or something and replace it with a boost node, and then put the holy symbol if you really care. But if it's level 1, it doesn't really matter. Like instead of a boost node at the end before you kill the boss or something to get a little bit of extra drop rate. But that's like a min-maxy thing. And as you keep leveling, you'll open up slots pretty quickly. So you'll be able to get to those 6 boost nodes. You'll have the relevant decent skills and all of your relevant self skills. The only extra thing for mobbing would be for bossing would be to get the bind in there, right? So that you can really dedicate that burst damage if it's really necessary.
For one of them, for Magnus as well, just to set him in place.
Yeah, makes sense because you do your damage a little bit over time, so you want to make sure that he's there for all of it and not just dips out.
There have been times where I do Fatal Blitz and he knocks me away, and I'm like, cool. No damage.
Well, I didn't even feel like doing damage. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, cool. I'm dead. Yeah.
And then right into a ball coming from like Usain Bolt, just running it down, just crashing. Yeah, that's definitely never happened to me before. Yeah, a very
cool.
Very common occurrence. The other thing, this is like a kind of like a meme thing, but since your up dash is pretty fast, or what is it called again? Combat step? No.
Shadow step.
Shadow step. Combat step is a 0-1, I think. Yeah, you can shadow step up if you time it properly over the blue swipe to get out of the hitbox. And because you fall pretty quickly, you have a very minimal chance as well of like getting hit by a ball that is coming at like falling at the same time. Up jumps are a little bit more risky because it's got way less momentum. So if at the moment you go up, you see a ball, you already know you're fucking dead. Like there's nothing you can do. But I think with the step, because it's so instant and because you fall pretty quickly after, I think that could be relatively safe. But that's more like a Hail Mary last resort kind of way of getting out of the way without getting like seriously injured. It's something you can experiment with. Yeah, if you had an up jump, you could meme with that, but don't think you have one, right? Because you have the burst step.
I have nothing to rope.
Yeah, there's no platform. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got the hook shot, right? Yeah, that's your version of the vertical mobility. Yeah. But other than that, it looks pretty solid. And again, like the Kain Discord will probably give you the nuances you need to adjust. But I think just crafting the node stones and
I'll do that now.
I think is the general
double the value, basically 35 instead of 70, right? So.
Yeah, and the loss in values, of course, that you can choose which one you get. But since you have so many outs, it's EV positive, right?
Exactly.
Okay, equips. Boom.
Yeah.
So general importance, WSE. And then I would say if you don't have a farming character, right under that is accessories for drop and mezzo. And then because you want your damage to come from nodes, from symbols, from all that stuff, and from WSE first, right? That's where you want to get all your damage. Accessories are there for utility. And then once you need more damage, you just need more nodes, more symbols. And that's when you need CRA gear and then Abzu gear to come in to make up for that gap and that loss of damage. But your accessories, you want to keep them just as they are until the bosses get really, really hard. And then you want to make sets, different sets for mobbing and for bossing for accessories. And that specifically is spearheaded by the presence of superior Golix equips. If they're there, then you can start making the swap. You can start buying the Sweetwater accessories, etc. And then you completely wean off of boss accessory set and go completely into superior Golix set. And until those pieces are there, you can just, you just use your mezzo and drop stuff for everything, basically. It's like a general priority for everything.
Should I cube my accessories then? Because they're all like just epic. I think my Kana treasure ring is unique, and then I don't know.
Yeah, so look at WSC first.
WSC.
Like secondary is great, right, for this stage of the game. They even give some crit on the third line, so that's cool. First we need to look at the IED, right? So IED wise, do you feel like you're at a good position there? You're at 81.
It's showing 86.
86.
81, 86.
That's with one familiar, you said?
2.
Oh yeah, 2, of course, one wouldn't give you that much, with 2 15% IEDs. He's at 86, so that's on the lower end if you're trying to do bosses like it's up to CRA is fine, up to HMAG, it would be like Helix and like Lotus and Damien and like those bosses that are 250 and 300% PDR, that it would be like, now it's really falling short. But is there link skill stuff there that you can, like, do you have the Ilium?
I don't have Allium. I have Luminous. I think Luminous gives IED.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I mixed those up because too many letters are
Okay.
similar. All I's and L's. Too
I
many.
have Luminous to level 2, so...
Yeah. And yeah, I guess the Explorer mages could kind of come in there.
That's one thing I think I want to work on. Explorer mages. Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah. Hoyoung and Zero could help you temporarily with a little bit of IED, but yeah, it's 10% per slot, so it's not terribly efficient. The Legion grid growing there is pretty good, right? Because of the increased value of getting the clumps of IED together, right? Big clumps of IED are more efficient than smaller clumps. So if you fill your grid up for like for the Legion grid, if you have 2, right? So you have a 13%, that's when it starts really counting, but then the next one can go up to 21%, then up to 30, then up to 40. You know, those are the numbers you're looking for, right? Those are the really big the big scary ones. And what's your stat window? Yeah, because we didn't look at the Legion grid. Because in general, critical damage would be more beneficial early than boss damage because of because diminishing returns haven't set in yet, and because your vicious shot, right? Vicious shot becomes very important, but that's mainly more important the higher level it is, and it's only for bossing, because it gives you a higher percentage conversion of critical rate to critical damage when it levels.
Yeah, I just learned about that from the Kain Discord vicious shot, so I had no idea.
Yeah, at max it's 50%, so you know you're going to be looking at like 140 crit rate or something and burst easily, so it's like 70% critical damage during your burst, which is nuts. But until then, I would prioritize critical damage in your Legion grid over the boss damage because it helps with mobbing as well. Plus, it's more efficient than boss damage when you're bossing.
Got it.
But that's like a small thing. It's more like a general priority, especially when you make the grid even bigger. Then it will be more significant than now, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, the emblem isn't ideal, but it's it's 18. You know, it's like pretty close. Plus, it's already legendary, so it's probably good enough. Yeah, it's okay. And then the weapon is stuck. The one major thing for your weapon, and in general, like I said, flaming is something you do a little bit on the side. The 2 exceptions there would be your weapon and items that you want to transpose. I would say are exceptions of this is where you actually want to commit to flames. So for this weapon, I would try to go for a better flame because you want a weapon attack flame. So again, you can look at the progression grid, you look at weapon flame, you look at your stage, you look at the tier, you can look at the calculator, see how much the tier is, and then aim for that number basically. And if you want, you can even use the flame calculator that exists to see like how many flames is that going to cost on average to kind of place this in. Am I committing 100 mil here, and is it like peanuts, or am I committing like 6 bill, and do I need to be careful because there's maybe an event coming and I need to star force, so maybe is it like, do I postpone it a little bit? Okay. So that's how you can kind of look at, and for that, you know, always have the event calendar in mind of like, is there a big event coming? Is there
I always look out for something.
To make sure that you're not spending like the day before, like, oh, I just spent all my money. Like that's the worst feeling. Rip. And the further you go, the more punishing that is, because you just need to spend on events, otherwise you're or you brute force your way through with like a Conaf armor, right? That's the other way, that people don't want to be so time gated by all of the stuff. They just push through it harder, power through it with a Conaf armor that, you know, that gives you more liberty in the sense that when you can spend, but less liberty because you're stuck farming for hours.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so then accessories, I would say, barring your other stuff, the series stuff is unique. That's what I like to see. Don't go to legendary too fast. Legendary is bad on these things. You just get so many junk lines, so it's
I just got lucky with my hat. It just turned legendary after like 2 cubes. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah,
well, and you hit 21, so that's pretty much all you can expect there as well. You got 2 lines on the other ones. That's perfect. Yeah. That's fine. Too bad the pants 48 intellect isn't dex, then that would be
rip
in a really solid position as well. But yeah, it's always a different stat. But yeah, so that does mean, I guess, like flame wise, that the pants is like reasonably good candidate for reflaming without like huge losses.
I've been having that on my list to do because that's one of them that doesn't have it on main stat. So
and you're relying for the Abzo stuff on the parties with your friends, right?
Yeah, I'll eventually get there. I think that's on my to-do list once we get there. But overall, I think it's just we need to get there first is the thing.
Yeah, sure. So as prep, what you can do is you can start looking at fodder equips at 1 tier lower, right? For transfer hammer-wise, at level 150 equips. See if you like for the gloves, it'd be really cool. Just any level 150 glove will do. You transfer hammer this one into that, and then one on.
I have a couple of fodder stuff, so.
Okay, cool. Oh yeah, wait, you had a picture here with backups. Let me look at that real quick. I've got some Rimuru stuff. Yeah, so before I start like explaining stuff that you already know, we're gonna save some time on that since we're already a little bit late on time.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah. No, that's my bad. Yeah, so belt-wise, I see you have some cracked and some solid. Honestly, unless they're epic, then I would use them as transfer fodder up to basically use them as e-pots. But if they're not epic, cracked and solid stuff, you can just freely just completely get rid of.
Okay, cool.
You just toss it. Yeah, the 150 stuff that you can hang on to. Oh, the 140 stuff, I mean, for transfer hammering into superior stuff later. That's fine. And earring wise, the same thing. Like I would keep the reinforced for later for transferring into superior. And of course, if you get superior backups from an odd helix here and there, then definitely hold on to those. But again, like the cracked and the solid, the cracked and the solid for earrings as well. Unless it has epic potential, then you can use it to transfer up. But otherwise, you can get rid of it. Ring wise, you can hold on to them if you do need backup rings for something because they are a little bit more scarce in ring resources. And I guess pendant-wise, there's a lot of options pendant-wise from boss accessory set. They'll also have flame advantage, like the Dominator pendant. And even a Horntail pendant with a flame advantage will have an advantage over solid and cracked. So those low-level pendants you can get rid of as well. And then the higher ones don't even drop, so that's not an option.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's your fodder. Yeah, I assume that all of that penciler stuff is epic, right? Even that.
Yeah. I keep the epic ones.
Yeah, just in case. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, so this is like decent placeholders until Abzo for sure.
Okay, cool.
You've got some 15s. That's good. So that's like all prepped for 5, 10, 15. If you have the money to bump it up to 17, right?
Yeah.
You've got the Mezzo on the tattoo. Bean mark. Yeah, that's a fine placeholder, so you don't have to spend dineros on a monocle. Got some epics here. Treasure Hunter John. Got the Dominator pendant. Are you working on flaming the Dominator pendant for the transposing in your mind? Yeah.
Definitely higher for Dex, and I don't know if you can get attack on the flame on this. Yeah.
Yeah, attack is also possible.
Okay. Yeah, so that's something I'm working towards because I already have the pendant and I have some dineros for transposing. But I'm waiting for a really good flame because I don't want to do it again.
Yeah. So for flaming here, so like for flaming priority, I would definitely say like weapon, and then I would underneath that I would put like all the accessories that you're actively using. I wouldn't worry too much about like the flame and the transposing on the Dominators just yet. I think that comes into play once you have the full superior, right? And then you throw in all the sweet waters with it. When you're going for 17 star and legendary and everything, that's when a transposing becomes more important, and that's when you'll have the budget to throw towards flaming and kind of brute force that. Until then, I would focus more on like throwing some flames, maybe on some accessories. Yeah, the weapon, maybe some accessories, maybe even the pants, right? To get all of those flames gradually up until they're all at a point where you're like, okay, now every flame is like a 95% chance of just destroying my item's potential. Now it makes like no sense anymore. And now I'll throw random flames on the Dominator. Because in this case, the Dominator can have pretty much direct access to becoming a drop or mezzo pendant because it's already unique and it doesn't have potential that you would be ruining.
That's true.
So I think it has more value in that sense at this time. And then, you can use it for drop or mezzo for a while and then transpose it because the legendary potential will get carried over anyway when you transpose. So it's not a huge loss. You can just re-roll it for stat at that point after it goes into the Sweetwater. And then you hopefully by that time you made another Dominator and then you just make a new Dominator into a replacement drop or mezzo.
Okay, perfect. I can do that.
Yeah. Unless you get another Dominator that, for some stroke of luck, has like an insane flame, and then you can just transpose that one and keep this one as drop or mezzo.
Because that always happens, right? Yeah.
Once it's gonna happen to someone at some point, might as well be you.
Ridiculous flame, yeah.
I think it was someone in my guild who got like an 86 and 5 or something drop earlier this week. Yeah, for their stat, like for Dex on a Dex character. So it's like, well, that's better than. I mean, I've rolled better, but never the stat that I wanted.
Yeah.
I've rolled like an 86 and 6 once, or twice in one session on a character, but both for different stats. So you're like, well, fuck me. I guess this is not wasn't meant to be.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, most of the other stuff is just good placeholders until you're like going into Abzo. And again, just always keep in the back of your mind, but I think this is clear, but just to reiterate that you're always looking at, okay, like how important is this upgrade, but also how long am I going to be holding this upgrade, right? That's a major indicator of like, do I spend money here or not?
Okay.
And then I guess on the side note of that is also, can I maintain some of this value and transfer it over and bring it with me? That can allow you to overextend a little bit temporarily, as long as it will result in more value in the future on another item.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at it in that sense now. What can bring me value right now, but can also in the future, rather than focusing on stuff that, you know, might just be placeholders. So I think that's a good next step for me for my gear.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've seen my transfer hammer video. It's a little outdated on the upper end because it's kind of emphasizing more going for high Star Force level 150 stuff to go into like high Star Force Abzo, which isn't meta that much anymore now because Arcane is much more reliable. So on that aspect, it's a little bit less important. But the general concept of like fodder and, you know, backup, you seem to have the basics of that down, so I don't think you have to watch the video. But if you know a friend who needs that whole concept explained, you can just show them the video and be like, this will explain it, and don't waste like 2 hours of your own time, I guess.
Yeah. I think I have a general idea, so.
Yeah, it looks like by the preparations you're doing, it looks like you know what's going on, so that's fine. So I would look at just starting with the unique pieces with the accessories and like one at a time, working it up to mezzo and or drop, right?
That's my next step for that for sure.
Yeah. So for drop rate 5 mezzo is ideally what you're looking at on the 9 pieces.
Okay.
And then. Yeah, and then it's mainly going to be dependent on what event comes around, right? If there's a 30% event comes around, then it's going to be working on some 15 stars. Perhaps prepping some fodder 15 stars for when you get into the Abzo, right? That way you can pick up some of that value early.
For sure.
And if the 5, 10, 15 comes around, then you focus on getting 17 on your already 15s.
Yep.
Since you have some. And then if you have leftover money, you can try to get some other items that eventually have to go to 17 anyway to get to 17, like a Kana treasure ring or something like that. Cool. I probably wouldn't work too hard on a Rage Zakun belt because it cannot transfer over, right? Because it's level 150.
Yeah, I'm just leaving that one.
yeah. If you want to go harder on a belt, you could. Yeah, it's kind of like a sideways extra expenditure that you might not want to directly do. It depends on your budget, but you can start working on like a Bing Bean belt. Because that one will be able to transfer hammer over into the superior, of course, so that will maintain that value.
Yep, okay. Perfect. Yeah, I have a clearer picture of where to go now.
Yep. And that big event ring, right? That'll probably be a huge injection with legendary potential for free.
Too. Yeah. It's going to be a big one.
It's different in the sense that you don't have to spend the whole time capping to be able to buy 3 rings and then all the money on the cubes to upgrade. But instead now you kind of get them for free, but it's limited to 1 and you have to wait until it pops up. So, you know, upsides and downsides. It's a little different again, but I think it works.
Yeah. Cool.
I don't see any huge things that are like really going wrong, and I don't think you have any remaining questions. I mean, you know about the heart.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty good. You answered most of my things. Honestly, it was just trying to get a clear picture of where to go next, and I think now I have that. So I'm okay with going towards a goal, making some of the goals myself on some of the gear, and seeing where I go next, see where that takes me. Yeah,
the progression grid will show you like a general direction, right? And as long as you can always double check, be like, okay, is it completely off or is it like somewhat in the right direction?
I think I'm in the right step.
Definitely, and it'll just help you maintain your balance between where you allocate your time. But hopefully with the added access to totems and stuff, and once the drop rate comes in and the mezzo comes in on your accessories, you'll also feel more value out of the training sessions.
I think so.
It'll
lower come together.
Yeah, it'll lower the barrier to be like, ugh, I don't feel like training. But when you know how much you made last time, you'll be like, oh, it's actually kind of fun, and I actually make a lot. So yeah, worth, exactly.
More random cubing. Just kidding.
Yeah, some people have that like make $1, spend $1. You can do that for a while, but at a certain point you kind of have to stop because it's gonna hurt your long-term progress hardcore if you keep that up.
Yeah, I have a list of what things to do now.
Mm-hmm.
Really good.
Okay. Well, good luck. Oh, shout out Sneasel and Kaizen. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess that's what your IGN is going for, right? For Sneasel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be, but
You put
whatever.
like an I. Yeah.
I don't.
I think you can use Falling Dust to dodge mag swipe. Does that give you knockdown resistance? It looks similar to the Pathfinder skill, the triple impact shot, which does it, but I don't know if the Kain skill does it.
I haven't tried it. Maybe I'll try it. And I'll report back. Just kidding.
Oh, it might get you high enough? Ah, okay.
Oh, I see. Oh, it does. Interesting.
Oh, by itself? Okay. Oh, yeah, that's interesting, actually.
Hmm,
Yeah, that'll
okay.
save you on the vertical up and down,
Yeah,
of course, of the falling balls
timing.
as well. Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, it does give KDR. Oh, okay. Cool, cool, cool. All right, see, I learn something new every day as well.
There you go.
There you go, that's fine.
Cool.
Yeah, timing is important. All right, well, best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much
And-
for this. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no worries. And, you know, the commands or the chat will always be there if you have additional questions. But I think the Discord will be a good source for you as well. So,
Yeah.
So peace be the journey and all that. And
Thank you.
I'll see you around.
All right. See ya.
All right, bye. All right. Your totem better be done by this time, guys, because that was a long session. Okay. But yeah, a lot of videos to go over for the specific details. But in general, I don't think. Yeah, probably worrying more than I would say was warranted. I think it's mostly just worry over the unknown stuff, which is of course totally understandable because there's so much stuff going on. But definitely very much going in the right direction. And then I think with the additional background information of all the systems and how they all interact, I think that should definitely give them enough extra boost of confidence to be like, okay, I can definitely go harder on this or this now. And yeah, I think all in all, fruitful. So if you guys have similar questions or are in a similar situation, hopefully this clarified some stuff for you. Make sure you always check the commands in my channel. I do my best to try to keep them up to date. So I'm going to work on updating the links and Legion 1 now. Make sure that I switch the ID and the boss damage to reflect that priority. It's a small change, but it's a change nonetheless. And yeah, if you guys want one of these sessions as well, check the link in the description. Thank you, Kudo, for the extra gifted subs. I appreciate you. What up, dude? And of course, if you would like to win, make sure you leave a comment on the video saying that you would like to win one of these sessions. I draw 2 winners every month, and you might be one of the lucky ones. So make sure you leave a comment if you want a free session. Otherwise, they are paid sessions, or they are bought with the channel points that you get in my Twitch chat from watching the stream if you're subscribed. So either way, thank you for watching. Hopefully it was useful for you. Congrats on finishing your totem. I'm still burping, and I'll see you on the next one.